Liam was a broke, overworked salaryman who got betrayed by his colleagues and was cheated on by his wife. However, everything changes when he dies and gets isekai'd as the ruler of a galaxy, but decides to use his power to become an evil lord and get revenge instead. But before this, Liam was an overworked salaryman who was always insulted by his power-tripping boss and arrogant juniors. His only joy in life was his wife and their daughter, whom he loved dearly. However, one day, Liam accidentally saw his wife and daughter with a strange man, and couldn't believe his ears when his daughter addressed the man as Papa. Later that day, he confronted his wife about her affair, but the lowlife shifted all the blame to him, calling him a good-for-nothing loser who could neither earn decent money nor spend time with his family. As she threatened to leave with their daughter, Liam tried to stop her and even begged his daughter to stay with him. But the brat said she liked her other dad more, which broke his heart. The following day at work, Liam got framed for embezzling $50,000 from the company and got fired from his job. Things only got worse when his wife used this as a reason to get a divorce from him, and Liam fell severely ill but couldn't afford the treatment. In his last moments, a portal appeared over him and revealed that the one who framed him was his toxic boss, who was also hooking up with his wife. Upon learning that the two of them plotted the entire thing to ruin his life, Liam began crying and swore to get revenge on them all if he ever got reincarnated. Just then, an albino Michael Jackson named Guide appeared before him and said he would grant his wish. Moments later, Liam wakes up in the body of a little boy and realizes he is in a completely different place from Earth. Now, as the only son of a wealthy count who rules an entire planet named Hydra, Liam swears he will use this Nepo baby status to exploit others like he was exploited in his previous life. Soon, his birthday arrives, and his mother gives him an artificial intelligence-powered system that can create customized robot maids. As he excitedly starts scrolling through the different features, he finds that the program can customize melon and cake sizes too, which makes him blush as he asks his mother why he even needs such a thing. Just then, his father shows up and reveals that he is passing on his title and estate to Liam as a gift on his birthday, in exchange for a monthly allowance for him and his wife. He also tells Liam that they will move to the capital after this and let him rule the planet however he wishes to. Just then, the butler brings the contract, and as soon as Liam signs it, his parents leave and Liam thanks Guide for making his new life so convenient. Meanwhile, Guide hysterically laughs at Liam's dead body and says it's time he moves on to his next step. At the same time, his ex-wife and boss are talking trash about Liam while having dinner at a fancy restaurant. She questions him about when they should get married, but just then, the police arrive and arrest the boss for framing Liam. As he is taken away, the wife realizes how badly she messed up because now she will become a good-for-nothing single mother and won't even have a loving husband like Liam. Guide relishes in the sadness of this human scumbag and later reveals that, since he is an entity that feeds on negative emotions, his plan was never to help Liam but to make his life even more miserable. As he disappears behind a magic door in Liam's room, a glowing puppy appears and taps Liam's forehead before leaving through the same door. Back at Liam's new mansion, his customized maid arrives in a figurine box, which he unwraps with his fingerprint, releasing the robotic baddie who introduces herself as Amagi, his personal assistant. Just as his butler, Brian, mansplains about her weekly maintenance schedules, Liam gets down to inspecting the robot like every cultured man and starts with a jiggle test of her melons. This gives Brian a heart attack, and he tells him not to do such things in front of his dried-up virgin face, prompting Liam to take Amagi to his room and leave Brian behind. After developing plot with the robot, he returns to the living room and gets a shoulder massage from her, which finally makes him relax. Brian is surprised by the sudden change in his personality and questions what caused his shyness to vanish. And Liam replies that even though he looks like a little boy, he still has the mind of a middle-aged man. The butler says that would still make him a little boy, prompting Amagi to explain that, since humans live for 500 to 600 years here, the age of adulthood is 50 years. Seeing him talking with Amagi makes Brian warn him against getting close to her, since artificial intelligence is highly disliked by the government. Liam doesn't understand, so he further explains that years ago, humanity almost got wiped out by an army of robots, which is why their use isn't liked very much. This makes him question why his mother left him a robot then, to which Brian reveals that his parents actually abandoned him and ran away because they could no longer deal with the hefty debts on their family. It turns out that after his great-grandfather died, the next two rulers turned out to be absolute trash bags who took massive loans to keep feeding their luxury lifestyles. This has caused their benefactors to use their lands as they please, and their factories to decline, which has left them with no resources to repay those debts or make any kind of money. Upon realizing that his dream to live in luxury will no longer be possible in this dirt-poor family, Liam asks whether his parents only gave birth to him so they could shove all their mess on him and leave, to which Brian nods his head. This makes him realize that his new life isn't any different from his past life, in which he was abused, betrayed, and cast aside like nothing. However, he decides he won't let others ruin his happiness this time and turns to Amagi, asking that she team up with him as he is hated by everyone for being a broke noble and she for being an evolved computer. She declines and kneels before him, saying she doesn't need to team up with him since her whole purpose in life is to serve him and promises to do anything he asks her to. This rizzes him up and he decides to program her with certain rules that would protect humanity from her, only to discard the idea immediately upon being reminded that his goal is to become an evil villain. He then teaches her 3 different rules to protect himself and her, and she immediately updates her memory. After they both swear to live only for themselves, Liam asks Amagi if she can help him with improving the rundown state of his family's bank balance, and she says that she can. She also recommends that he use an education capsule to fill his empty brain with some useful knowledge, and Liam agrees, leaving the management of his estate to Amagi for the next 6 months, during which he will be inside the capsule. This scheme almost gives poor Brian a stroke, but Liam insists that Amagi won't be a threat to anyone as long as he doesn't want her to. Later, as he prepares to fall asleep, he asks Amagi if she has any human emotions, to which she says that even though she isn't supposed to get sentimental, she did feel her hard drive acting up when he asked her to team up with him. Meanwhile, a space pirate named Goaz battles against a princess knight named Christiana, who successfully pushes back his pirate ships and almost obliterates 1/4 of his entire army. Months later, Liam wakes up in the pod and Amagi welcomes him, explaining that they used a night training mode on him while he was asleep, which would have strengthened his body too. She later shows him the status of his finances, and this time, his heart doesn't immediately stop working because under Amagi's authority, the money flow has improved. After this, she takes him on a tour around his estate and shows him their satellite launching system and the robot knights, which reawaken his inner weeb. Liam immediately starts whining about how he wants to ride a robot too, and Amagi makes his wish come true, explaining how piloting a robot isn't that big of a deal. As soon as Liam gets seated in, she explains that the robots use magic to function, so all he has to do is imagine his next move and pour his mana into the controller. Just as the robot starts moving, the captain of his mobile army challenges Liam to a friendly duel, and with just 1 strike from his sword, the captain loses. However, Liam sees through his act and tells the captain to quit treating him like a weakling and fight him fair and square like a man. This time, as Liam charges at him, the captain disarms him at once and the poor guy gets cooked, leading Amagi to explain that since the robot uses its pilot's imagination to function, the captain's superior combat skills must have helped him operate it better. Following this, Liam gets hyperfixated on finding a mentor to improve his non-existent martial arts skills and tells Brian to find him one. Soon enough, a wannabe samurai named Yasushi visits Liam's estate as his new master and yaps about how his sword art technique, the Way of the Flash, is the most powerful combat style in history. Amagi finds his depressed-looking face a bit suspicious, but Liam believes that those droopy sad eyes are what make him the real deal. They later visit a training field where Yasushi stands in the middle of a bunch of wooden posts and gets ready to demonstrate his ultra-secret technique. Liam excitedly watches as he prepares his sword and tells Amagi to record it, however, without even drawing it out, he somehow slices through all the posts at once. Amagi tries to review her recording, but doesn't see him pulling the sword out either, and Liam assumes it's because he was so fast that no one could see him, which makes him go nuts. Yasushi immediately gets hired by him, but later that night, he returns to the training ground and reveals that he's actually a total fraud who knows nothing about sword arts. As Guide watches him through his portable screen, Yasushi admits he just used logs that were already sliced to deceive the dumb loser, and plans to leech off of his money from now on. Meanwhile, Christiana meets up with Goaz in her spaceship after he requests that they negotiate their terms, and warns him not to try anything fishy, since her ships are surrounding him. Just then, Christiana receives reports that some pirate ships have made past their defenses, and are planning to attack her planet, but she doesn't understand how they could do it with her ship stationed right there. Goaz laughs and reveals that he bribed her army, which was awfully easy to do, and now Christiana has no one around to help her. Once she gets captured, Goaz takes her to his ship and forces her to watch as his missiles and laser beams fire at her planet and destroy her home, all while she cries and yells at him to stop. 3 years pass, and Liam continues to train under Yasushi's phony tactics. However, he gets nowhere close to pulling the stunt he pulled with the wooden posts. Amagi reassures him by mentioning how much better he has gotten at martial arts in general. But Liam argues that he still needs a cool finishing move if he wants to pilot a robot in the future. That night, as the weeb samurai lazes around in his room, laughing at how stupid Liam is for paying him so much money for nothing, Liam knocks at his door, forcing him back into his cold, mysterious guy mode. The boy asks that they move on from the basics now and start learning some better moves using his way of the flash sword art techniques. However, Yasushi becomes a drama queen and says that if he doesn't like the way he is teaching him, he can just leave his estate at once. Liam immediately apologizes and leaves, making Yasusahi fall back and giggle at how he couldn't teach him anything, even if he tried, simply because he himself doesn't know a thing. Later, while Liam is frowning over how weak he still is, Amagi shows him their recent stats and says that even though their finances are improving steadily, they still aren't getting the results they should based on the investments they are making. Liam checks the stats himself and realizes somebody is stealing the revenue and quickly summons the one responsible for it. As an ugly hobo arrives at his court, Liam accuses him of embezzling money, only for him to mention that Liam is still too young to understand finances. Liam ignores this and questions him about the missing receipts, but the hobo says that all the missing money was spent on miscellaneous needs and expensive vendors, which makes Liam question why these expensive vendors still haven't met their delivery deadlines. As the fatso begins sweating, Liam starts admiring his corruption tactics and plans to take classes for him to become an evil lord, until Amagi finds news about a scandal in which the hobo blamed his subordinate for stealing money and got him executed. This triggers his past trauma, and Liam asks the ugly orc whether he had fun framing an innocent person for the crimes he committed, as he starts walking toward him. The idiot, on the other hand, turns to Amagi and calls her humanity's enemy. However, Liam couldn't care less at this point, and tests the sharpness of his sword on his neck instead. Once he rids the loser of his empty head, Liam lashes out at him and says trash like him should rot and die, and tells Amagi to find and execute all the corrupt officials. She instead tells him to put down his sword, which makes him realize just what he has done. However, she comforts him and suggests that they replace all the officials with robotic girls as they would be easier to control, but warns Liam that it would impact his reputation as robots are disliked by people. Liam says he doesn't care what people think, because he would much rather trust somebody like her than a rotten piece of garbage like the dead hobo right there. That night, some locals get together at a bar, and even though they still feel skeptical about letting such a young person rule them, they can't help but feel happy about the new schools that Liam is constructing and the corrupt official that he took down. The next morning, as Liam prepares to pilot a robot for the first time in years, Yasushi shows up and tells him not to pilot something that anyone could pilot and instead go for something that no one could operate. The captain suggests that he take a look at an old manual robot left by his great-grandfather, and Liam gets excited about it. In reality, while Yasushi was on his secret stealing spree the night before, he got frustrated when he couldn't find anything worth selling and accidentally stumbled upon an old manual robot hidden in the room. Since he believed he could sell it for good money if it got repaired, he suggested that Liam use this. At the same time, Guide travels through the earth in search of negative emotions, and feeds quite well after a wannabe rapper gets upset over his coffee order. Back on planet Hydra, while Liam practices his swordsmanship, Brian tells him that the robot he is planning to use is called Avid and was used by his great-grandfather. He also states that even though he is happy that he will be using it, he believes that a newer model would be a better fit. But Liam says that using an older model is more difficult, and hence cooler, which is why he will use that instead. At the same time, as Amagi walks into the storeroom and asks Avid to protect her master to the best of his abilities, she wonders if Yasushi really is a swordmaster because her analysis doesn't show anything extraordinary about him. Later that evening, Nias, an engineer from the capital, arrives at Liam's factory to fix Avid, but is instead surprised to see Amagi. Just as Liam assumes she will ridicule him for using artificial intelligence, her inner weeb unleashes, and she starts fangirling over how cool Amagi's model is, and even admires how soft and jiggly her melons feel. Afterwards, Liam takes her to see Avid and asks that she repair it, but Naya says that an old model like this is both difficult and expensive to fix, and suggests that he buy a newer model instead. However, Liam insists that she fix him, no matter how much money it takes, and asks that she leave the manual control as it is, but upgrade everything else to the latest, most powerful technology. Just as she agrees, he also asks her to add a cool final move to the robot, something like a rocket punch, but Nias doesn't understand what he means. As he struggles to explain it, Yasushi walks into the storehouse and immediately gets rizzed up by Nias, who he believes is his one true love. However, when he tries to introduce himself and make a move on her, she doesn't pay any attention to him and keeps arguing with Liam over how impossible it is to add a rocket propeller to the arm of an old robot. Eventually, she does agree to adding the rocket punch but warns Liam that it'll use up all of his finances, all while a pissed-off Yasushi stares at them and starts considering Liam the rival who stole his 10-on-10 baddie. Later, he punishes the poor guy by telling him to stand on top of a log in the river while blindfolded and shoots him with a ball launcher. Liam keeps getting hit and tries to explain that he can't see, but Yasushi tells him to man up and feeds him another one of his crappy stories about how he should be using his mind's eye instead. Meanwhile, Goaz brings the captured Christiana and her soldiers to his treasure island, and when she asks what he is planning to do, he grabs her by the collar and says he will add her to his collection. He then takes her to his mad scientist, who shows him his latest invention, which is a horribly mutated girl. While Christiana is shocked to see this, Goaz throws her at the scientist and says she will become his new pet now, telling the psycho to start by gouging her eyes out and implanting them on her hands so she can look at herself while he turns her into an abomination. The frightened girl looks around to see many similar failed experiments and realizes she is cooked. A few days later, Nias informs Liam that she has completed repairing Avid, and after praising her, he quickly gets in the seat to test it out. However, as Nias helps him in, he gets distracted by her extra-large assets and topples over. She sits next to him and explains that since the robot doesn't have auto-balance, he will have to control it himself, and he tries again. This time, he easily makes it walk and brings it outside the storeroom, all while Brian cries tears of joy because he feels proud. Nias also mentions that Liam might have a knack for operating manual knights, but as she tells him to imagine piloting it a certain way, all Liam can imagine is his hands on her melons, which is exactly what the robot starts doing. As his imagination becomes wilder, the robot starts doing a sus dance, and Nias finally realizes just what is happening. She quickly pulls back and calls him a jerk, but Liam argues that it's not what she thinks, all while Yasushi's soul leaves his body. And Brian feels glad that Liam is finally showing interest in real women rather than androids. A few days later, as Liam gets tired of training and feels like he is going nowhere, Amagi reassures him and says that the problem doesn't lie with him but with Yasushi's incomplete instructions. She also criticizes his excessive faith in him, but Liam misinterprets her and assumes that he is still lacking faith in his master. That's when it hits him, and he realizes that the secret technique must use magic, since it is impossible to pull it off with a sword alone. He spends the next several seasons focusing his man on the sword until one day, a grown-up Liam asks Yasushi to watch him as he draws his sword and successfully slashes the wooden post in half. This fries the con man's brain as he realizes how cool he must be if Liam has managed to pull off something he created in his imagination. Still keeping up the act, he praises Liam and tells him not to get cocky and to continue practicing, while hoping that his true identity will never be discovered. Later that day, as Liam is on his spaceship, Amagi informs him that the pirates are attacking one of their planets where she set up a factory a few years ago to generate revenue. She advises that they attack their ships from a blind spot directly above their current location, and Liam agrees to follow her plan. As soon as he tells his crew to get Avid ready, Brian argues that a lord must never face the enemies himself, but Liam tells him to shut up because anybody who messes with his property pays the price. Later, he gets buckled up inside Avid and gets launched into space, all while Nias pesters him to send her videos of his first fight using Avid. Once in the enemy territory, he launches a surprise attack from above and slashes through a bunch of their mobile knights with ease. As the other enemy knights start shooting lasers at him from afar, Liam summons a rifle beam from a magic circle and shoots it at them, blasting them away one by one. Once he runs out of ammo, he switches back to his low-maintenance sword and prepares his final move using his sword art technique, cutting through the rest of them with a magic slash. As the remaining few start running back to their ship, Liam launches his finishing move, the rocket punch, only for another magic circle to open up and launch an actual punch-shaped missile at them. He is confused at this, so Nias explains it's the final boss move he asked for, making him crash out and mansplain that his actual arm was supposed to shoot out, not a missile. Just then, Amagi contacts him and reveals that they have captured whatever was left of the pirate ships, and they celebrate their victory. When news about the defeat of his pirate ships reaches Goaz on his treasure island, he loses his mind and says he will unalive all the remaining scumbags who fled the battle. His psycho-scientist friend tries to argue against it, but Goaz says that once a pirate becomes a laughingstock, he loses his worth. He leaves his island after bidding goodbye to Christiana, who has become a mutilated pile of junk. At the same time, after Amagi congratulates Liam on his first battle, she reveals that they have finished inspecting the pirate ships, which, according to the Imperial law, now belong to him along with all their cargo. However, Liam is later disappointed to find that the cargo doesn't contain gold or silver but weird metals like adamantite and scarletite. Amagi explains that these metals are far more valuable as they are used to make weapons, compared to diamonds, which are basically fancy carbon, and gold, which has no value. But since Liam is trying to play the greedy, evil lord, he whines about how he wanted a crown full of diamonds and gold, and Brian eventually calms him down by promising to bring him all the gold they found in the cargo. Liam tells him to turn all of that into gold coins so he can fulfill his lifelong dream of bathing in a pool full of gold, which makes the old man wonder if something is wrong with his brain. Just then, Amagi states that their estate currently has over 10,000 spaceships, but only 30% of them are functional, and suggests that they throw away the unusable 70% to cut down on the maintenance cost. However, the old geezer refuses to let that happen, saying that he has an emotional attachment to everything on the estate, even if it's junk. Liam ignores him and agrees with Amagi's suggestion to buy used spaceships in exchange for the metals they found in the cargo, and plans to expand his army. At the same time, Nias presents her latest combat ship model at a pitch event, and even though her model is superior in terms of raw power, the design of her rival company wins thanks to their Titanic-inspired interior and luxury model. Nias tries to argue that it's better to invest resources where they count, instead of useless things like fancy furniture. But the rival chick argues that if the crew is comfortable, the quality of battle improves. She also mocks her for always failing to cash her designs and says she will never be able to sell her useless ships, which pisses Nias off. As she lies down in her bed and provides some fan service, she wonders who would be stupid enough to get scammed into buying her ships, and Liam's face flashes in her mind, making her smirk. On the other hand, Guide anticipates that Liam's negative emotions must have skyrocketed by now, thanks to all the suffering the debts he left for him. However, when he returns to Hydra for the first time since Liam got isekai, his jaw is left hanging at how the once barren lands have turned into modern-day industries. He heads to the local bar to gather more info, where he finds the locals praising Liam for how he captured the pirate ships. Yasushi sits there in a corner too, whining about how his delusional student has surpassed him by mastering his phony tricks, and Guy doesn't understand how all this happened. Meanwhile, as Liam continues his swordsmanship training, he tells Amagi that he still has a long way to go until his skills can even remotely match Yasushi's, making her wonder why he is still so delusional. He later recalls how trashy his life was when he first came here, and how he was betrayed by his own parents. But now that everything is steadily improving, he can't help but feel grateful toward Guide, who sent him here. This gratitude stings like an arrow to Guide's heart, and he resurrects himself by sniffing Yasushi's loser aura, before deluding himself into believing that Liam's downfall will eventually come, and it will taste much sweeter after his happiness era. Back at the mansion, Amagi suggests to Liam that they buy the old Imperial ships, since they are switching to a newer model soon, and reveals that the army has agreed to sell them to them in exchange for one condition. Upon being questioned, Amagi explains that they want them to take on some of their old personnel too. And even though Liam doesn't feel too happy about this, the maid believes that those with actual experience would still be valuable, even if they are close to retirement. Meanwhile, as a stoned Yasushi rethinks his life choices in his room, Nias knocks at his door and forces him back into his cool, mysterious mode. As she settles before him, Nias initially praises him for teaching Liam, and then questions what she should do about her problem. Although she means to ask how she should approach Liam about buying her combat ship, this Delulu guy assumes she wants to sleep with his geezer face, and suggests that she just make her move without overthinking. Nias nods and asks what kind of tastes he has, and he once again misunderstands, assuming she wants to know about his fetishes, instead of Liam's taste in battleships. As all his sensors break down, Yasushi tells her to wear a tight black skirt that flashes her plot armor, along with fishnet stockings. However, just as he realizes he may have revealed his inner cultured man and worries, Nias bows before him and thanks him for all the valuable information. Now prepared for her sales battle, Nias visits Liam in his court and starts by acting cute and asking that he hear her out. The wannabe evil lord tells her to leave since he doesn't want to buy anything else from her, but Nias shows him her brand new combat ships and offers to loan him money to buy at least 200 of them. Hearing the word loan gives him an upset stomach, so he tells her to leave once again, only for her to bring out her secret weapon and flash her cake armor at him, before showing off her melons and clingy girlfriend personality. This pity show finally tires him out, and he ends up buying 300 of her ships, making Nias the happiest girl in the world. Later, as she tells her boss about how she had to sell her body to land him this deal, Yasushi overhears her and realizes that she used his fetishes to entertain Liam, which pisses him off. Later, as he lies in his room whining over how Liam trapped his poor lady and forced her to do cultured things, he wonders if they went past the cosplay stage and clapped each other too, which makes his blood boil. Just then, Guide appears and wishes even more anger upon him, hoping that it will cause Yasushi to go up against Liam and make him suffer. Meanwhile, Amagi informs Liam that the combat ships from both the Imperial Palace and Nias have arrived, and he immediately heads out to check them. When he gets on the ship that the deranged baddie sold him, she greets him and offers to sell him fuel for a cheaper cost too. Liam wonders why she isn't offering him the fuel for free after he bought so many ships, and criticizes their plain design, saying that he wanted to live in luxury. However, Nias is too happy to mind any of this, and instead offers to let him touch her melons as a bonus if he agrees to buy the fuel too. He turns her down, making Nias ask for another favor and request that he sell her some of the pirate ships he captured. Although he immediately says no, Amagi suggests that they let her have some of the ships and, in exchange, ask her to repair their half of the ships back to functional quality. Nias loves the proposal and mentions that pirate ships often use modern technology that most of them have never seen before, which makes Liam curious, so they decide to check out those ships together. When they get inside one, Liam notices the cool pirate-themed steering wheel and says he will install that on one of his ships too. Meanwhile, Nias goes nuts over seeing so many different specs, especially the technology that would allow them to create warp holes, and decides to steal the idea. Just then, Liam sees the vision of his golden dog again and follows it into a secret room, which Amagi believes is a control center. As soon as he steps in, a monitor lights up beneath his feet, and Liam realizes it shows all the coordinates that the ship has traveled to. After Amagi processes all the information displayed on it, she realizes that the ship keeps appearing and disappearing at a specific location around the border of the Imperial capital. She further deduces that this location is centered around a rogue planet or asteroid that keeps traveling in a weird orbit, and Liam assumes this secretive place is where the pirates keep their treasures. He channels his inner evil lord again and smirks, deciding that their next mission will be to raid this mobile treasure island and multiply their wealth. At the same time, Goaz learns from the surviving pirates that it was the Count of Hydra that defeated them so pitifully, making him announce that their next mission is to destroy him. After he leaves the room, his minions start believing their lives have been spared, only for Goaz to undock their chamber and blast it away. On the other hand, he directs his remaining ships toward a large warp gate near the border of the capital, and they all set out. At the same time, Liam and his ships teleport to a smaller warp gate near Hydra, from where they plan on warping to the bigger gate near the border, where the treasure island supposedly exists. However, the small gate rejects their request to pass, and a stuck-up middle-aged man tells Liam he needs to pay a hefty fee if he wants to cross the gate, according to the rules. Liam tries to argue that they will pay them upon their return, but he states that he won't let him pass without the fee unless another noble or someone trustworthy writes him a guarantee letter. Amagi says that no one would do it for them right now because of their poor loan payback record, and a frustrated Liam decides to talk to the manager in person. Amagi does mention that talking to him in person won't change his mind, but Liam believes that his skills as a pitiful ex-salesman will come in handy. At the same time, Goaz passes through the large warp gate and enters a transition zone, where he contacts the same authorities and asks that they let them pass through the small warp gate where Liam's troops are waiting. The worker doesn't question this macho man and immediately complies like a good boy. He quickly engages the transition zone with the smaller warp gate to allow him passage. And as soon as he mentions that Goaz pirate ships will be facing Liam's troops, the manager says that it is none of their business and that they did not see it coming. To continue their plan of feigning ignorance, all the workers scatter and leave the control room, with the manager going to talk to Liam. The talking doesn't help, and neither do Liam's schemes to lie about his sick mother or his crocodile tears when the two finally talk. However, just as he accepts defeat and starts leaving the space center, Liam sees the golden puppy again and follows after him. This leads him to the empty control room, where he misunderstands the position of the warp gate and assumes the manager did, in fact, open it for him. As he giggles, wondering if that emotionally constipated man is secretly a softie, he notices that the direction of the gate is the opposite of what he needs and quickly changes it. This little stunt redirects Goaz's ships, which were using this portal, and brings them to the training grounds of 1,000 Imperial spaceships, leaving both the warp gates solely for Liam and his team. Back in the control room, Liam receives word from Amagi that they have obtained a letter of guarantee, and when he returns to his ship, he realizes it was from Nias. He thanks her and advances his ships through the portal that he just opened up, bringing them safely to the other side. Eventually, they cross the bigger warp gate as well and arrive at an area crawling with pirate ships, which confirms that they are near the so-called Treasure Island. Amagi calculates that even though they are small in number, launching a surprise attack on pirates who are not expecting them would double their chances of winning, and tells the troops to fire at the enemy ships altogether. This obliterates a huge chunk of their manpower, and the rest of it is crushed by Liam, who pilots Avid and smashes the rest of the ships with a bunch of rocket launchers, finally showing the weaklings who the real boss is. At the same time, Christiana has a vision of what it would have been like if the pirates never destroyed her home, and she returned to meet her family as the victorious. As she envisions the happy smiles of her parents and her siblings who looked up to her, she can't help but feel happy herself, until the flashback from when Goa's destroyed her planet comes back to her. She imagines her palace being destroyed, and her family screaming for help, only to be reminded of how helpless she was when that happened. The flashback continues as she recalls being brought to the Treasure Island, where she told her fellow soldiers not to worry as help would surely arrive, only for Goaz to show up with his psycho buddy and tell her to start entertaining him. Christiana told him to unalive her if that was what he wanted, but demanded that he let the rest of her girls go in exchange. The nutcase brought his face closer to her and told her she was his pet, so unaliving her would only strip him of his entertainment. However, since she begged so fiercely, he said he would let one of the girls go and asked her to choose. Christiana looked at the horrified faces of all the girls and eventually made the tough decision, only for Goaz to break the promise and use the chosen girl as his first lab rat. The princess kept begging him to spare her, but the mad scientist spawned another pair of hands and turned her into a low-budget slime zombie. A traumatized Christiana questioned why they are doing this, to which Goaz answered that he's doing this because he's a sick sadist and enjoys watching beautiful things turn into trash. He then warned her to brace herself as she was next, and yeeted her into the chair, just as the other nutcase brought his tools forward. The girl stared at them in horror and begged them to let her go, only for Goaz to explain that the reason why he started with another girl and not her was that he wanted to break her spirit, which he finally managed to do. After this, he yapped about how he would gouge her eyes out and make her suffer, all while Christiana begged the heavens to unalive her for good. Back in the present, a now mutilated princess once again asks the madman to let her die, but her tells her she is their captain's favorite toy, so he cannot do that. Just then, Liam's troops close in on the treasure island and attack it, making the ground inside the laboratory shake. This makes the psycho head to the control room and question what is happening, only to learn that they are under a surprise attack. Meanwhile, as Liam finally blasts his way into the treasure island, he spots the same golden dog and follows it, successfully arriving at the control center. His men detain all the pirate lackeys, and he questions the mad scientist about the whereabouts of their secret treasures, only for him to wonder if he means money by it or the pets that their deranged boss keeps. Liam assumes he's talking about actual pets and asks if they have a golden puppy around, but the scientist only laughs and says he can turn them into a puppy if he likes. Everyone still fails to understand what this loser is yapping about, so he brings them to his lab and shows off all of the human rights violations he has committed. His lack of remorse reminds Liam of the scumbags who made his previous life difficult, and he instantly takes him out with a headshot. Just as he starts walking away, Christiana calls out to him and begs him to believe that she is not an enemy. Liam introduces himself to her as well, stating that he is the one who has taken over this planet, and Christiana cries tears of joy before requesting that he end her misery. He agrees to save her and quickly summons a medical team to the location, making her yell and beg him to offer instead. However, even though he believes such an act of mercy is out of character for an evil lord, he still cannot bring himself to watch anyone suffer as he did in his past life. A few days later, while Guide is traveling throughout the earth looking for sadness, he stumbles upon a young man who is trying to have the best plate of natto on rice, with a dash of soy sauce. However, after he takes one bite, he realizes that he used the wrong sauce and feels like he has the worst luck in the world. Guide feasts on his sadness, and tells himself that it is about time for Liam to have his downfall too, and imagines just how delicious his sorrow will taste. At the same time, Nias visits Liam in his court, and tells him to buy another 100 ships from her company, now that he has stolen even more pirate ships and their $1 million worth of treasure. When he curtly refuses, Nia shows off her melons again and uses fan service to win his pity, reminding Liam of how he used her guarantee letter to enter the warp gates. This finally makes him give up on his tough guy persona and ask Amagi about how many they can afford with their current budget, only to learn they can buy as many as 5,000. Upon hearing this, Nias quickly sprints out of the room and confirms their purchase of 5,000 ships, despite Liam's protests. As she runs down the hallway with her assets on display, Yasushi overhears her and gets so pissed that he swears revenge on Liam. He quickly finds him roaming through the halls and asks Liam to follow after him for another new lesson, only to bring him out on the battleground with a blindfold on. He lies that he just wants to see the fruits of his training, all while he brings forth his ball-shooting drones and swears to annihilate him, along with all the Riz that is stealing his baddie from him. On the other hand, Liam struggles to defend himself and gets reduced to a pitiful mess, crying on the ground, begging Yasushi to stop since it isn't humanly possible for him to fight so many attacks at once. The wannabe samurai tells him nothing is impossible and that he should find the answer himself, which reminds Liam of how he solved the mystery behind his sword art technique. Once again, he channels his mana and ends up creating a magic shield, which deflects all the balls back to the drones, destroying both them and Yasushi's will to live. As he smiles and asks Yasushi if this is the answer he wanted him to find, the Master of Deception realizes he will be cooked if Liam ever discovers his secret and decides that it is finally time that he runs for his life. As he turns around to walk away, Yasushi tells Liam he has left nothing more to teach him and grants him the title of a sword master, advising that he keeps improving even after he is gone. On the other hand, Liam cannot believe his luck and sends gratitude to Guide for making his new life so much better than the old one, only for all this positivity to give him the ick. A few days later, Liam throws another one of his usual tantrums about how he isn't satisfied with his level of evilness yet and wants to exploit and abuse even more people so he can settle his debts with his old self. Amagi misunderstands which debts he is talking about, thanks to her non-existent brain cells, and says it will be awesome if he settles his real-life debts really quickly too. This frustrates him, and he explains that he means to get revenge on those who abused him in his past life. But Amagi says she believes that he will settle his debts soon. Ryan, on the other hand, reminds Liam that the treasure they obtain from the pirates will be appraised soon, and Liam realizes he is surrounded by tone-deaf idiots. Later, as he deduces that an evil lord needs power, money, and a harem full of hot baddies to be called an evil lord, Liam realizes that even though he has mastered his swordsmanship, he is still knee-deep in debt and far from touching a real woman in this life. Just then, a merchant named Thomas arrives at his court and congratulates him on raiding a pirate's domain. Liam, on the other hand, only cares about the gold he brought with him and almost loses his mind upon seeing it, telling Brian to quickly turn it into gold coins for his dream gold tub. He then turns to Thomas, who requests to hire his troops as bodyguards for their next delivery of merchant goods, and Liam agrees on the condition that he bring him even more gold next time. On his way back home, the merchant can't help but admire Liam's kindness and humility, saying that it's rare that a noble keeps asking for a cheap metal like gold instead of something like scarletite. Back at the mansion, Liam stares at all his beautiful gold and reveals that he just wants to create a gold bath where he can bathe with some hot chicks. Brian finally deduces that he likes gold so much because of its anti-allergy and healing properties, making Liam roll his eyes at his third-rate detective skills. He later settles down and realizes that now that he is taking bribes from rich men, his second goal as an evil lord has also been completed, which leaves the harem. Sometime later, he takes Brian and Amagi to witness his newest hyperfixation, which happens to be a huge pool. As the robot maids clean it up, he reveals that he will eventually fill this with champagne and swim in it with a bunch of hot girls, finally fulfilling his final goal. However, Amagi states that if he fills a pool this big with alcohol, the fumes will spread everywhere and risk a fire. She also states that if he plans on drinking the champagne in the pool, it would be disgusting, but if they use a filtration system to clean it up, all the alcohol would be filtered out too, leaving just water behind. This makes him discard this stupid idea, but the wannabe evil lord still insists on creating a huge harem for himself, which Amagi says would be totally acceptable. He is surprised to see she isn't being possessive over him, and Brian says that it is more concerning for account of his status to hang around with an android instead of a real woman. As he begins to go nuts over how long it will take for Liam to produce an heir at this rate, Amagi tells Liam that he can totally create a harem for himself if he wants to. The geezer questions how big a harem he is thinking of, and Liam thinks to himself that even though 10 ladies are more than enough for him, he needs to say at least 100 because he is an evil lord. Hearing this, Brian is surprised, not because it is too much, but because it is too few, compared to the 10,000 candidates that Amagi has already selected for him. Just then, Amagi shows him a list of all the potential candidates and states that finding good women would be easy for him since he is popular throughout their planet, and also young and rich. However, Liam discards the idea, explaining that as an evil lord, he is supposed to kidnap and take in chicks against their will. he establishes a new rule for his future harem, and says that he will only take beautiful girls who are totally against becoming his ladies, making Brian worry that he may never lose his V-card this way. Later, Liam visits his city and puts on his emo bad boy cosplay, hoping to scare and kidnap some girls for his harem. However, the first girl he comes across quickly gets rizzed up by him and agrees to go on a date, only for Liam to notice the weird pink balloon on her nose. It gives him the ick, but when he looks around, he realizes that it is the newest abomination created by the fashion industry. He quickly returns to his mansion and throws another tantrum about how ugly these nose accessories are and how big of a turnoff they are, no matter how hot the girl is. He tells Amagi to ban this on his planet and forbids her from ever wearing one too, before going back to sulking. He curses his luck for not finding hot sci-fi inspired hotties anywhere, and wonders which breed of women are the women on this planet that make them wear fish costumes to the beach instead of swimsuits. As he crashes out over the rotten fashion on this planet and tells Amagi to hire some models and create a new clothing catalog, she tells him that they are too broke to afford a model, which costs a fortune. He changes his strategy and tells Amagi to just go and gather all the beautiful women on this planet in his court, only for her to reveal that all the human servants on his estate were already selected based on the beauty criteria. Hearing this, he says that jumping his own servant would violate their master-servant relationship, but Amagi says it would be perfectly fine based on the common tradition. This moves the poor guy to tears, and he tells Amagi that she is more than enough for him, giving Brian another stroke as he yells that an android cannot produce an heir for him. Liam backs off and says he just isn't interested in women who are interested in him, making Amagi question if he prefers men instead. Tired of arguing with these dead-brained idiots, Liam finally gives up and realizes just how hard it is to become evil. At the same time, Christiana wakes up in a hospital and is surprised to see that she is back to her normal self. As soon as she begins crying from happiness, the nurse tells her how Liam spent a hefty sum of money on her treatment with the elixir, a miracle healing drug. She asks why he did that when she is worth nothing, following the destruction of her kingdom, only to learn that he did it for everyone he found on the pirate island. As the nurse leaves, Christiana is moved to tears once again, and swears that she will repay Liam for his kindness someday. A few years later, the same people gather at the local bar, which has now turned completely posh, and talk about how they went from rags to riches thanks to their new lord, before praying for his success. Guide, who is also an undercover customer at the bar, overhears this and gets irritable, wondering where he went wrong in his grand scheme to ruin Liam completely, then feed on his sadness. Meanwhile, the new ex-Imperial soldiers assigned to Liam's ships also discuss how happy they are to be working under such a just count after leaving their old jobs because they got tired of their corrupt seniors. Guide watches this too and struggles to understand how the earnest soldiers that he handpicked to bring Liam down aren't rebelling against him after seeing his true evil lord persona either. At the same time, as Yasushi enjoys his dream vacation at a resort surrounded by hot girls in swimsuits, he overhears news about how Liam was honored by their army general for taking down the pirate ships. His heart almost stops upon learning that during the interview, Liam sent a special thanks to him for teaching him the way of the Flash, and he begins panicking that his truth might get revealed. Guide spies on him too and can't figure out how an absolute piece of garbage like Yasushi ended up teaching Liam god-tier sword fighting. Finally, after Goaz and his company finally make it out of the Imperial training grounds alive, the meathead decides to go and teach the guards at the warp gate a lesson for messing up their route. However, Guide intervenes and reminds him that his original goal was to take down Liam, who destroyed his hideout and stole all his treasure. The hypnotism works, and Goaz gets fired up, swearing that he will turn Liam into mincemeat as soon as he gets his hands on him. Meanwhile, Liam has his lunch at his mansion, where all of his maids surround him and help with wiping his mouth, holding the cutlery, and even blowing on his hot soup. This leaves a bitter taste in his mouth again, and he tells Amagi that evil lords should have their meals surrounded by women and mountains of food. She wonders if she should prepare all that extra food for him, but he answers that he hates wasting things, making her question if she should arrange some women for him instead. Upon hearing this, Liam asks her in all seriousness whether she is okay with him looking for another woman, only for Amagi to mention that he doesn't even have one woman right now, let alone another. He tells her to quit joking since she is a woman too, but she insists that she is just a robot who is here to assist him. He again asks her if she really would be okay if he found someone, and Amagi states that as long as it makes him happy, her software will not act up. Later that day, as Amagi calculates how much the treasure they obtained from the pirate ships has helped in the repayment of their debts, Liam can't help but wonder just how much money his deadbeat parents took from others. He also mentions that even though this is his second life, he is still knee-deep in debts like her was before, and he curses his fate. Amagi questions if he is unhappy by any chance, and offers to help him in any way possible. But Liam says that he will never be unhappy as long as he has her by his side. Later that day, as the other android maids fangirl over how hot their master is, one of them reveals that he could tell her apart from the other maids, even after she copied another maid's hairstyle. The others don't believe her, as they all have the same designs, down to their final specs, to which the maid reveals that she actually captured this moment and turned it into a film, which she uses every night when she needs sweet dreams. Just as she offers to show it to them, Amagi shows up and tells her to hand the film over to her because they shouldn't be acting friendly with Liam or pulling pranks on him. She further explains that it is because getting close to androids like them would hurt his reputation, as artificial intelligence is widely hated, making one of the girls question why she is so close to him, if that's the case, despite being an android herself. Amagi plainly states that even though it is wrong, it cannot be helped since it is Liam's own decision, and she cannot go against it. Later that evening, Brian brings news that the pirates have entered their territory and declared war upon them, making Liam question just when they became so moral. Amagi explains that this warning must mean that the pirates are here for revenge and won't be happy with just unaliving them, which makes sense to Liam after he recalls what they did to Christiana. They decide to host a meeting with the other army officials of his troops, and after Amagi reveals that they are up against 30,000 pirate ships with their measly 5,000 ships, the officials begin arguing over whether surrendering would be better or negotiating. Meanwhile, Liam's petty existence is just feeling salty about how much of an evil Lord Goaz is without even trying, compared to him, who is actually trying to become one. He also feels upset over the comparatively measly bounty on Goaz's head and believes that it amounts to nothing compared to the 30,000 spaceships they will have to face to bring him down. Amagi brings him out of his Delulu lands and reveals that, according to her stats, their chance of winning against the pirates is merely 3.8%. As soon as Brian makes a surprised face upon hearing this, time stops and everyone freezes, making Liam wonder what is happening. Just then, Guide appears and reveals that there is an even bigger treasure on the pirate ships than he already stole from the pirates. He suggests that Liam use this chance to attack them and use all that extra money to repay all his debts, before explaining that he is the one who has laid out this plan for him because he never wants him to suffer in his new life. Liam gets instantly deceived, believing all this crap, and as soon as time starts moving again, he declares that they will be answering Goaz's threat with an all-out attack, making the officials wonder if he has totally lost his mind. Following this, Brian rants to Amagi about how they are all about to get doomed thanks to Liam's rash decision, right after they finally started making progress towards making their planet a better place. The maid, on the other hand, states that Liam's decision wasn't rash or wrong, because even if their chances of winning are thin, going down without a fight is even more pitiful. Meanwhile, as Liam deludes himself with visions of obtaining all of Goaz's wealth, Guide laughs in a corner, imagining how satisfying his end would be at the hands of such a merciless pirate. He also relishes his own genius for patching up a rich macho man like Goaz, with his army-level weapons, against a weak and delusional fool like Liam, who trusts someone as shady as him. At the same time, Goaz's men spot Liam's troops making their way to them, and the musclehead can't help but laugh his heart out as he imagines turning this arrogant brat into one of his pets. Meanwhile, as Liam's underlings all talk about how amazing their boss is for not feeling scared in the face of this self-unaliving mission, he quietly enjoys Amagi's lap as she cleans his ears, and he wonders when the fight will start. One of his men reveals that the war has already started on the front lines, but since they are so small in number, they are having a hard time. Liam doesn't understand how the fight is hard when they haven't even started fighting yet, and gets sleepy as he waits for them to come face to face with the enemy. Just then, the alarms start buzzing as an enemy group appears from teleportation portals above them, making Liam ask Amagi why they would even do something as foolish as dividing themselves up. She deduces that the group of 500 ships preparing to blast them from above is most likely a distraction to find an opening in their defenses, and Liam realizes they are just weak, sacrificial pawns. Just then, another commander on the transmission relays that the said group is not made up of pirates, but belongs to an Imperial Army troop that was kidnapped by the pirates previously. This infuriates Liam, who realizes Goaz is yet another scumbag who is using the weak to clean up after his mess, and he swears to teach him a lesson. Just then, the Imperial ships launch an attack on the troops, but they counter it with 0 damage, obliterating every last piece of the rogue ships. However, this counterattack disrupts their formation and forces them to pull back from the field, giving Goaz the impression that they are running away. He uses this chance to further advance his ships and attack them, only for their frontline ships to get stuck in the booby traps they left behind and get obliterated by the space bombs. However, Goaz unexpectedly tells the ships to keep moving after sacrificing, no matter how many troops it takes to get rid of all the bombs. This garbage move surprises Liam, but his idiot troops start copying this tactic and send their shield ships to the front to take all the damage from the pirates. This doesn't sit right with Liam, but his commander argues that they need to sacrifice whoever is necessary in order to keep him safe, but Liam calls his ideology trash and declares that no one has the right to damage his soldiers and ships except him. Following this, he tells Amagi to prepare Avid for him and decides to get the job done by himself, since everyone else surrounding him is a big, fat loser. He also retires his wimpy commander and asks the maid to take charge, telling everyone to follow her commands before leaving. As soon as he gets inside Avid, Amagi leads their main ship to the front lines, making all the other soldiers question whether her android brain is even working. However, as soon as they start criticizing the use of artificial intelligence again, Amagi explains to these thickheads that now that Liam is not on this ship, their job is to cover him when he starts attacking the enemy lines, which they cannot do from the back. Meanwhile, as soon as Liam gets launched into space, he uses a teleportation circle to appear right in the middle of the pirate fleet, making them wonder if he is totally nuts or just eager to get his one-way ticket to hell. However, Liam smirks and summons his sword, using it to slice through enemy knights like they are nothing. His ships cover him using their laser beams, and his newly deployed mobile knights assist Liam in his fight against the pirate knights. To spice things up, he even summons a bunch of laser guns and cooks a few thousand enemy ships using them. However, a sudden attack by a pirate knight catches him off guard. He quickly recovers and engages in a sword fight, during which his opponent asks him which type of sword art he is using. Upon learning it's something called the Way of the Flash, the knight laughs and calls him a phony, stating that he has never heard of such a style. This pisses off Liam, so he uses his special move on him and slashes through him without drawing his sword. After this, he uses the same move multiple times to take down the pirate knights, until the right arm of Avid starts malfunctioning from overuse. The enemy uses this chance to launch a group attack on poor Liam, and surrounds him on all sides, and even though he still fights them, his sword breaks, and he realizes the pirates are too great in number for him. However, just before he gets completely dog-walked, Christiana shows up in her mobile knight and protects him, swearing that she will repay him for the favor he did for her. Back in the main spaceship, Amagi learns from the hospital nurse that Christiana was very eager to fight the pirates, so much so that they couldn't stop her from leaving. Back on the battlefield, she teams up with all her female soldiers and starts destroying pirate ships one after the other, feeling extremely satisfied after getting her revenge on the jerks who made her suffer for years. In fact, the revenge gets to her head, and her fellow girls start questioning her sanity. Meanwhile, even though Liam feels grateful for her help, he refuses to let her steal all the spotlight and quickly replaces his malfunctioning arm with the rocket punch. Following this, he forges a new sword out of a broken spaceship and launches his final boss move that obliterates almost all of the enemy ships with a single swing of his sword. Christiana watches Liam fighting from afar and blushes like an obsessed fangirl, swearing to record and place this scene on the altar at her home and pray to it every morning and night. Just then, a pirate knight hits her from behind, which triggers her psychotic mode again, and she tells the piece of trash to disappear before slashing through him for good. On the other hand, as Liam continues to show off his powers, he feels great about finally being on the side that doesn't get assaulted but does the assaulting. Meanwhile, seeing him fight so earnestly makes his commanders tear up and feel glad that they follow somebody as noble as him, who turned their lives around even after he was abandoned by his own parents when he was a little boy. Back on the battlefield, Liam learns from Amagi that another new group of pirate ships will be approaching him shortly and prepares his next course of action by summoning a bunch of laser guns to annihilate them. However, as soon as the ships arrive and he launches his attack, a magic shield appears around them. Liam tries to use teleportation to get to the other side of the shield as well, only to find that the pirates have jammed electromagnetic communication, putting this option off the table too. Just as he worries about how to get past the shield, Amagi tells her crew to speed right into the enemy ships and launch a strong but focused laser attack, directed toward the same spot on their shield. A few repeated attacks at the same part of the shield finally break it, and even after the pirates repair it, Goaz finds that Avid and hence Liam have already crossed over to the other side. Just then, the wannabe macho's right-hand man asks him about their next course of action, and Goaz reveals that they will quietly escape after informing the captain of their ship, leaving behind the rest of their men to die. At the same moment, Liam finally locates the main ship and attacks it from the outside, destroying all the possible modes of escape, and smirking at how all the pirate treasures are about to become his. Once the ship turns into a floating wreck, Liam barges into it with his army, only for a group of weirdos in purple jumpsuits to try and stop them. The captain begins panicking and tells all his soldiers to protect Liam, but the evil boss unsheathes his sword and takes all of the enemies down with one move thanks to Yasushi's lessons. This cool move makes his subordinates respect him even more, and the group eventually makes it to the control room, only to find Goa's right-hand man cursing into his heart's content. Upon seeing Liam, this lowlife quickly gets down on his knees and reveals that since Goas has abandoned him and escaped on his own, he will help Liam get to his treasure. However, Liam refuses to engage with a traitor like him and quickly rids him of his heavy head, making Guide's heart ache. This weirdo wonders how Liam got so strong overnight and finds it unbelievable, but still vows that he won't let him ruin his scheme, even if he has to play dirty. At the same time, Goas tries to escape the ship with nothing but a key to his treasure and plans to make a deal for his life in exchange for all of his money once he makes it out of here. Just then, Guide's miasma finds him and promises to turn him into the strongest being in existence, in exchange for Liam's happiness. After Guide feeds him some muscle-amping drugs, Goaz turns into an even bigger disappointment than he already was as his skin turns purple and he runs off to find Liam. With him gone, Guide feels confident that Liam will never be happy after today and leaves the scene behind his magic door, only for the golden puppy to use this chance to escape as well. The puppy later guides Liam to a hidden room behind a wall, where he finds a special katana, despite the rest of the room being nothing but a pile of junk. He tests out the blade and decides to keep it, only to be suddenly distracted by the voices of his soldiers struggling to fight against Goaz's new form. Just as he demands to see Liam quickly and attacks his soldiers, Liam slashes him from behind with his original sword, only to realize that his skin is too tough for him to defeat. However, when he tries to defend himself against his next attack with a new sword, Goaz's entire arm slices off with ease, making Liam fanboy over just how cool this sword is. With his next attack, he severs his other arm, only for weird tentacles to spawn from both spots. However, these tentacles don't faze him at all, and Liam finally finishes him off with his next attack, which rids him of one of his arms and his leg. Following this, the ex-macho turns into a whiny little boy as he begs Liam to spare his life and promises to reward him with treasures even greater than the bounty on his head. Just then, the commander of Liam's army explains to him that whether they take Goazin alive or dead won't change the amount of the bounty money, and expresses that he would much rather see him dead after what he did to the members of his crew. This finally allows him the freedom he needed, and Liam smirks like some psycho in the making as he slices Goaz's head off. After the entire deal is over, he happily returns to his spaceship, where Amagi welcomes him back home, and he replies that it is good to be back. After a few more years, as Liam turns 40 years old, the commoners of Hydra meet up at their local bar, which has now turned into a 5-star restaurant. This time as well, they all talk about how much their lives have changed for the better since Liam became their lord, and wonder about what he will do next. At the same time, Liam is meeting up with Thomas at his mansion, who reveals that their revenue from all the treasures they stole from Goaz is exceptionally high. After he shows them the documents, Amagi states that this would be enough to pay off quite a bit of their debt, which once again makes poor Liam question just how much money his parents took as loans. Thomas also mentions that some medical companies are interested in researching the treatment that turned Christiana back to normal, and just then, the said princess enters the courtroom. She kneels before Liam and states that her treatment is officially over, so she came here to thank him for all he has done for her. However, just as soon as she begins yapping about her tragic sob story again, Liam tells her he is tired of hearing this and asks that she assist Thomas with his treatment-related questions instead. Christiana immediately complies and removes her plot armor, showing off her hot body to Liam, and asks him to admire her curves as much as he wants to. The evil lord reminds her it's Thomas who wants to look at her. Just then, Nias walks in with a new proposal for Liam to buy her junk ships, and is surprised to see Christiana standing in the middle of the room without any plot covers. Fearing that Liam might get rizzed up by her instead, Nias immediately unbuttons her shirt and shows off her melons, telling Liam to look at her only and buy some ships from her while he's at it. This pisses off Christiana, who draws her sword and threatens to unalive Nias, only for her to tell her to calm down, as Liam already belongs to her. Just as these two are fighting, Ulycia from Nias's rival company turns up too and introduces Liam to her brand new battleships, the Super Dreadnoughts. This finally gets his eyes sparkling, and he turns to Amagi, asking her to buy him one, only to learn that he needs authorization from the Imperial Palace to own one of these, which is currently impossible. Just then, Brian walks into the room and cries tears of joy upon seeing Liam surrounded by real-life girls for once, before informing him that he has been invited to the royal capital for a ceremony that will reward him for taking down the pirates. The next day, when he reaches the capital, his deadbeat parents come to greet him, starting with his father, who tells him he has grown so much older than before. However, Liam refuses to address him until Amagi helps Liam recognize him, and even informs him that the people behind this clown are his mother and grandparents. Liam calls them the parents of the century for fleeing after shoving all their debts and responsibilities onto a little boy, only for his mother to laugh and tell him not to joke around. She also reminds him of the doll set she gave him and recognizes Amagi instantly, stating that she is glad he still plays with her. However, immediately afterwards, she says he shouldn't have brought a robot to the royal palace, and even his grandparents start making fun of Amagi, telling Liam to throw her away now. Upon hearing all this, Amagi tries to excuse herself, but Liam tells her to stop and asks his parents to tell him what they really want. They immediately start demanding more money, being the greedy leeches they are, and mention how they deserve some part of his prize money since they gave birth to him. However, Liam quickly draws his sword and yells that all of his money is his money and all of his lands are his lands, before telling the clown group to get out of his sight. With them gone, he turns to Amagi and tells her she is his only family, which makes her smile. At the same time, Liam's family returns to their living room and starts arguing over what they should do now. Just then, Guide intervenes and uses his magic that makes all of them agree to one solution, which would be to appeal to the authorities about changing the family heir. Just as they are discussing their next course of action, Amagi spots the golden puppy and follows him to their room, where she overhears their entire scheme. Later that day, as the family goes to the Chancellor to appeal for a change in heir, he curtly turns them down, saying that Liam has been ruling Hydra for the last 35 years, helping them capture pirates, helping his people, and most of all, paying all his taxes, which means he is fit to be the ruler. They try to argue against this by mentioning how he brought a robot to the palace, but the Chancellor states it isn't illegal to do it, just socially new. After this, he warns them to mind their own business and return to their rooms, which they quietly comply with. With them gone, the Chancellor turns to Amagi and says that, as a part of their deal, all of Liam's prize money from today will be used to repay his debts, and Amagi says she won't have any problem with it as long as he authorizes a super dreadnought to buy for Liam. Later that evening, after Liam returns from a party, he lies in Amagi's lap as she cleans his ears and talks about how much fun he had. She then mentions that he will be coming of age soon, and realizes that they have stayed together for almost 40 years now. Just as Liam feels happy about it, Amagi asks him to please let her go now, as she has already served her purpose. Liam gets up from the bed and questions why she is saying this, to which Amagi mentions that since androids and artificial intelligence are hated throughout the capital planet, she doesn't want to stay by his side and risk tainting his reputation. Upon hearing this, Liam sternly tells her to cut the crap, but Amagi brings up the laws of robotics that he taught her and states that if she stays and hurts him, she will be violating the first law, which tells her to keep her master safe and happy, no matter what. She then bows before him and thanks him for always treating her like a fellow human being, not just a robot, and asks that he finally set her free. However, Liam instead questions whether this is something that she wants for herself, or just something that is based on a vague assumption. Initially, she insists that the assumption isn't vague, and that his reputation really is at stake, but she eventually admits that this isn't what she wants after all. As she begins crying, Liam finally smiles, and states that if she ever tries to leave him again, he will drown in liquor every day until it really harms his body, and actually violates the first law of robotics. After she agrees she will never leave him, Liam hugs her and buries his face in her melons, asking her not to abandon him too. Will freaky Liam actually clap Amagi one day? Let us know in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more awesome recaps.